Kickmaster on the NES is what happens if you tossed Castlevania, Double Dragon, and Ninja Gaiden in the closet and only one game popped back out. Also, throw in an RPG of your choice. Sure, why not? Kickmaster was developed and released exclusively for the Nintendo Entertainment System by Taito in 1992. Ken Lobb was the game's producer, and he was also heavily involved in games such as G.I. Joe on the NES and Low G-Man. He was also co-creator of the Killer Instinct franchise, so I guess you might know him from that. Like I said before, Kickmaster takes elements from a broad spectrum of NES games. You've got cutscenes similar to Ninja Gaiden. The story here is that the kingdom of Laurel is attacked and very badly burned by a bunch of monsters led by this demon called Belzed. They killed everybody, torched everything, murdered the king and queen, and kidnapped Princess Sylphie, the last in the family bloodline. The brave knight Macron and his younger brother Thonolin take off to rescue the princess, but Macron is slain by a bunch of skeletons. His dying words are, "My brother, my steel is no match for these creatures. Only with your great kicking skills can we hope for victory." Brilliant, simply brilliant. So Thonolin takes off to avenge his brother, save the princess, and prove to everyone they didn't just rip off the opening scene from Ninja Gaiden. Okay, so you play as Thonolin and he's really into kicks. There are a ton of different variations of kick attacks that you can practice and master. The kicking controls feel like Double Dragon on steroids. There's almost too many kicks. Thankfully, they were nice enough to throw in a demo mode to practice some of the game's more complex kicking maneuvers. But that's your main method of attack. No punching, no whips or swords, just kicks. Lots and lots of kicks. You do also find magic spells along the way which provide a variety of attacks such as an earthquake that freezes enemies, a projectile weapon, and my favorite, the lightning attack. It's almost overpowered. You'll want to save these for special occasions since you've got a limited amount of mana points though. More on that later. You also get a couple of spells that replenish health. The look and feel of the level design definitely drew on the likes of Castlevania and Ninja Gaiden games for inspiration, and that's not a bad thing. They're all very well detailed, as are the enemies. There's a variety of areas from haunted woods, underground caverns, vast canyons, a ship, and an incredible looking swamp. Check out the shimmering water effect in the background. Play control is hit or miss. None of the kicks really have the range that I wish they had because I mean, what do you want? They're kicks. At the end of the day, your legs can only reach so far. Combine that with the sketchy hit detection and that could make or break the game for some people. It's not awful, just know what you're getting yourself into with that and it takes some practice to get the hang of it. Jumping kicks tend to do better than grounded kicks in most situations, and thankfully you do get some more powerful flying kicks as you level up. So that's another thing. I mentioned this game's got some RPG elements in its DNA. You've got magic abilities that you can find along the way, and your character can also level up. That's right kids, you've got experience points and everything. When you defeat enemies, they drop magic to replenish your mana points, and they also drop experience coins of various values. Grab as many of these as you can to level up your character, and each time you level up, your max health and mana increases, and you also gain additional kick attacks, as if you needed any more to try and master. They definitely had a lot of ideas with this game, and I can't fault them for throwing it all against the wall to see what sticks. Unfortunately, Kickmaster ultimately suffers from a few quality of life issues. Aside from the sketchy hit detection that I mentioned before, there's the whole issue of how and where exactly the enemies drop items and power-ups for your character. Instead of going the Ninja Gaiden or Castlevania route and having candles that you could slash along the way for power-ups, enemies will just sort of burp them into existence as their life sputters to a close. The power-ups fly into the air in a semicircle pattern and don't land on the ground, instead they just pass through the ground. There's always at least 3 items and they could be random, a potion to refill your mana points, or any number of experience coins, some worth more than others. So this means that as soon as you kill an enemy, in a matter of a split second or two, you have to decide which power-up you want to collect, try to jump in the direction of the item you want, and try to avoid any other enemies on screen at the same time. All of this before the items vanish forever through the ground. It is possible to pull off kind of a jump maneuver to where you can catch 2 or even 3 items at once, but aha, sometimes they'll throw a skull and crossbones item in there too, which the manual calls poison. Touch one of these and you take damage. I mean, that's one way to do it, I guess. If you're really bad at catching the items, you could get halfway through the game and have barely leveled your character at all. Also, Kickmaster commits the cheap death cardinal sin in vertical scrolling areas. If you fall off the screen, you immediately die, even if the ledge was just below the edge of the screen where you just came from. To be fair, the manual warned you about this, but it gets incredibly annoying in some of the later stages when there's enemies flying all over the place. This game is pretty brisk and the levels aren't that long, but they went the ghosts and goblins route. Once you beat the game, you can press start for a more difficult challenge. There's actually 4 quests in total, but unfortunately your leveled up character doesn't carry over. It's not a new game plus system, so you've got more powerful enemies, but you're back to level 0. Thankfully though, you do have infinite continues. Alright, so it seems like I've been complaining a lot here. Well, maybe I'm only doing that because what this game does well, it does very well, and it made me wish this game could have been an all-time classic instead of just an obscure curiosity. Like I said before, the levels all look really good, especially that swamp level. There's also some really cool boss fights once you get past the first level. What is this, God of War now? That looks amazing! I also really like the idea of being able to level up your character. And the music, this game's soundtrack is epic, just give this a listen. So yeah, I just wish there were a few basic quality of life fixes to make this game more enjoyable, but all of that being said, I do definitely think this game is worth checking out. Unfortunately, it's going to cost you. It typically goes for at least $60 as a loose cartridge, and probably way more than that. But it's definitely worth going to the trouble to find a way to play if you're in the mood to play through Castlevania, but don't necessarily want to play through Castlevania for the 47th time. Well, that's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't text and drive, and I'll see you next time on Friday Night Arcade.